Tuning you in now to the LBX show with your host, Brandon Wiley. Brought to you by the LBX Collective, your community to connect, engage, and inspire.
All right. Well, welcome everybody to the LBX show for June 14th, 2026. I'm your host, Brandon Wiley, and we have a great show lined up for you today. First, we're going to dive into some news you should know, and then roll into a guest gab with Chris Rich. He's the VP of Financial Services at Roller to talk about Roller's new capital program. And then finally, we'll close it out with a robust open and shut with Kevin Williams to review all of the opening and closing trends from the last week. And there are a lot of them. So we're going to be digging into quite a bit. It is a robust open and shut, but also very, very entertaining and educational, et cetera, et cetera. So first, before we get rolling into that, we'll do some news you should know. All right. Well, today I'm excited to announce that my time is up at IntelliPlay and excited to go headfirst into several projects that have been incubating for some time. But first, I'll just say I had an absolutely phenomenal time with an incredibly talented team building an incredibly complex product for the active play and family entertainment center industries. It's so great to see all of the incredible traction that has happened and developed over the last 2 years, and absolutely loved my time there, and absolutely loved working with that team, and very excited to see just all the growth that they've already had and will continue to have. Big fan of the product, big fan of the opportunity that they have, that they're bringing to the active play market to track and gamify the adventure park and active play experience through smart wristbands that track the activity and location in real time, et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, absolutely a great time I had there, but there are more announcements to come as it relates to what's coming down the line for me. But first, I will announce that the first couple of pilot locations will be testing out a brand new innovative rewards platform for the location-based entertainment industry over the next few months in several locations before official launch. So stay tuned. That's just one of several announcements, but I'm excited to make. But that is coming and that is underway. But that is the first news you should know. Next, we've got the Intercard lineup 2026. So this is where you can go and find Intercard, meet with them. If you were in Asia, in Hong Kong just this last week, you would have met them at the Hong Kong IAPA Asia Expo. It will be in Japan next year. But that is where Intercard was at this last week. And then coming up the end of this month, June 28th to the July 2nd, this is Bowl Expo. This is the International Bowling Proprietors Association of America. I don't know how it could be international. Anyway, whatever. So it is the International Bowl Expo, and that is happening in Nashville this year. And June 28th to the 2nd, Intercard will be there. And then they'll also be at the IAPA Latin American Summit in Buenos Aires, Argentina, from August 18th to the 19th. And then also August 18th to the 20th, they will be at the Southern Amusement and Entertainment Expo. So if you're looking to connect with Intercard, please do go ahead and show up at one of those locations, find them in their booth, and talk with them about anything that you want to talk about. All right. So two little things I want to touch on here, and they both happen to do with Hasbro. So the first one is a new location called the Candyland Cafe. This is a pop-up location in San Diego, and you'll see why I'm bringing this up here in a minute, but ultimately it opens in San Diego, California on July 9th, so in just a couple of weeks. And it is a partnership between Hasbro and Bucket Listers. If you're not familiar with Bucket Listers, they are sort of like a fever platform. So if you go to bucketlisters.com, they have a bunch of different experiences there. And so it's like if you go to feverup.com, there's different experiences. Some of them are run by Fever. Some of them are not run by Fever. Some of them are created by Fever. Some of them are not. Very similar with Bucket Listers. So some of these experiences on bucketlisters.com website are created by Bucket Listers, and then others are just there to find on their site. So Candyland Cafe, one of those created by Bucket Listers in partnership with Hasbro and their IP, specifically around Candyland. And so, basically you'll be able to step into a real life version of Candyland. It'll have immersive sets, interactive experiences, and then a themed menu, obviously, because it is a cafe. So theme menu, it's again running just for a limited time. So it's just a pop-up, but the way they've typically done their pop-ups is they might run it in San Diego, and then they'll take that pop-up and run it in Boston, and then run it in Chicago, and then run it in New York. And so if it works in one location, they'll typically then take that particular concept and roll it out across multiple locations. If you go to bucketlisters.com, you'll see one of their classic ones is the Malibu Barbie Cafe. They have recreated that in multiple locations. There's a Brady Bunch experience. You can go and experience like the Brady Bunch set. That's in a couple of locations. They have a bunch of others like that. But this some of the immersive dining options will feature Candyland paths that take you through towering candy castles. There's a whole theme setting, including the King Candy's Castle or Jolly's Gumdrop Mountains. And there's a sweet adventure checklist. So you go in, you can like get this checklist and make sure you've done all the adventures. There's a DIY cookie decorating station, lots of photo opportunities. And this is basically a fast casual menu. So it's going to have things like comfort food with a sweet twist. So there's rainbow burgers. Not sure what else is going to be on a rainbow burger. I'm wanting to try it out. Chocolate barbecue sliders, themed milkshakes, and then a chocolate river fondue experience, which could be really cool. Is it kind of like a candy, like a Willy Wonka thing? I don't know. And then cocktails and non-alcoholic drinks. I think one of the biggest things, like, okay, is this going to be like a Wonka experience, going to be fall flat? Well, I think Bucket Listers has a really strong history of doing very well themed and well run experiences. And I think just if you look at the entrance to the space, they have not skimped on the theming whatsoever. This is very high end theming, very high end touches. And so I expect the Candyland Cafe to do very well here. But this is what I find interesting though, is their pricing model. So it is $24.50 per person. It says including fees. So some additional fees. But starting at $24.50 per person, and this is for a 90-minute seating. It is a timed experience. So you go into the cafe, you can get the food, you can walk around, you can sit down at a table, but it's 90 minutes, limited to that. But it comes with a $10 food credit and then a $5 merch credit. So ultimately, their ticket price is like if you strip that away and you do actually use those credits, their ticket price is $14.50. Excuse me, not $14.50. Their ticket price is $9.50. Bad math there for a minute. So it is $24.50, and then you get a $10 food credit, $5 merch credit. Obviously, what that is doing is really trying to focus on driving up that per cap. If you come in and you've already spent $24.50, you're going to be a little bit more reluctant to really spend the kind of money you want. You might want to on the food, or you may not choose to go and buy any merch. But what they've done now is they've said, hey, you spent $24.50, but you're actually getting $15 towards something here. And it greases the wheels. It gets people thinking about going and putting that $10 credit towards some food. And now the next thing you know, they spent $50 on food. And then they're going to take that $5 merch credit. And they're going to put it towards something. And next thing they know, their kids have asked them to spend $25 to $40 on merch. And it just drives up that per cap. So it's a really innovative model. Obviously, they're not new to this. They know what works for these types of experiences. And so that is the Candyland Cafe, and put on by Bucket Listers. If you want to go and visit, you can obviously go to bucketlisters.com and check it out and go and visit. All right. So speaking of Hasbro, this we actually go into this a little bit more deeply in Sound Off, this upcoming Sound Off on Tuesday, the 16th. And this is Hasbro has launched a new artificial intelligence AI studio called the SixthWall. So actually, I think it's just called SixthWall, not the SixthWall. It's like Facebook, not the Facebook. Dedicated to bringing its characters into the AI era. So the SixthWall was ultimately created, and this is I mean, I think they're really freaking innovative here, like right on the bleeding edge. Like really surprised this has come out of a toy studio versus one of the movie studios with like really complex IP and heavy IP like this. They are really on the bleeding edge of this concept. So basically, SixthWall was created in response to all of the unauthorized use of Hasbro's characters across chat and voice and gaming and content creation platforms. So like basically tons of AI, tons of unauthorized AI use and stuff. And so the third-party creators, rights holders, and partners that want to use Hasbro IP, Hasbro content, Hasbro characters, etc., they now have the ability to do that. And what's really cool is, some of these types of experiences are like, storytelling experiences, games and digital companions, connected physical products or robotics like used in dark rides, or AI powered brand ambassadors, or even location based entertainment experiences. We've talked about a bunch of these different Hasbro experiences that are out there, the Candyland experience being one of those. And this, so the SixthWall is actually powered by the Character OS system. And the Character OS system can actually preserve a character's personality, their canon, their voice, and a bunch of other safety guardrails across all these multiple experiences. So really, really interesting. And each character that's in the Hasbro studio and SixthWall is built using authorized source material, because obviously it's done by Hasbro, and more importantly, human voice performances. And it's really interesting. If you go to if you go to the SixthWall's website, you'll actually see a really great it's like 2.5 minute clip about these voice actors who come in and do the voices for the different Clue characters, or for the Transformers, or for Mr. Potato Head and Peppa the Pig. And so, like, it's really cool to see that they are using real voice actors, and that these voice actors' voices are now then being embedded into their AI canon through the Character OS system. And so there's a cool video I'll play here. But they've actually, this is in partnership with the AI audio company 11 Labs to bring the select characters to their iconic marketplace. So 11 Labs has their own characters, but if you want like an iconic character, a branded character, you can go to 11 Labs iconic marketplace, and those are authorized AI representations of particular voices from iconic characters. And Hasbro has brought 12 of their initial characters to the iconic marketplace to launch this. And so anyway, really brilliant move forward here. And I'm just going to share a quick little Instagram video from the Hasbro's Instagram feed. So just pull this up here and we'll give it a play.
Every story begins with a question.
And every question deserves a little drama.
So listen carefully, because this is going to be a wild ride.
Because sometimes all it takes is one little voice.
And a whole heap of personality.
To make the entire world listen.
Hasbro's iconic characters are now available on the 11 Labs iconic marketplace.
All right, so that is just a little touch of what they have done. They've worked with the real voice actors to bring these characters, and now you can actually go, and if you wanted to create something for your space, you can go and leverage some of these characters' voices, but do it in an authorized, fully licensed way. And so anyway, it'd be really interesting to see how Hasbro and SixthWall continue to move forward. Right now, they say they're focused on experiences for those who are aged 13 and older. So they're not really developing AI products for young children, which I think is an interesting take. And they really are trying to actively contribute to the broader industry discussions around safety standards and voluntary guardrails for AI-enabled play experiences. So anyway, that is Hasbro Studio and their SixthWall, and that is news you should know. All right. Well, so that was a great news you should know here, but now I'm excited for the next Guest Gab. So this is Guest Gab with Chris Rich, and Chris is the VP of Financial Services, as I mentioned, over at Roller, and he is here to talk about Roller's longtime partnership with Adyen, and then also the rollout of their new product, Roller Capital. Just to be clear, this is not a paid segment. It's not, Roller is not a sponsor. I just really thought this offering was worth covering on this show, since it can really have a significant impact on the cash flow of a venue and reopen up a lot of opportunities. And it's a great, overall a great capital product brought to this industry by both Roller and their partnership with Adyen. So that being said, let's bring him on the show. Hey, Chris. Well, welcome to the LBX show.
Thanks so much. Great to be here.
Yeah, absolutely. So maybe we could start from the beginning. Roller and Adyen have had a relationship and a partnership within the Roller platform for some time. Maybe you could explain a little bit about Adyen and how you guys have worked together for a few years. And then we'll get into really the big announcement that we want to talk about, which is the microloans inside the Roller platform.
Yeah, sounds good. So we've been working with Adyen since 2020. So we're one of their longtime platform customers. Adyen's a global payment processing company. They're based out of Europe, but they support us with payment processing in 31 countries. And they've been a critical partner for us in helping us support our venues with integrated payment processing for in-person transactions, online transactions. And then more recently, we've started introducing embedded financial services products because our belief is that our venue operators want to be able to get access to embedded financial services products within the Roller platform, so they're not having to work with other third parties. The Roller payments product powered by Adyen has resonated really well with all of our customers, not just in the US, but across the UK, Europe, and Australia. So it made sense for us to sort of invest further in the partnership and start offering some embedded financial services products that will really benefit our customers.
Yeah, so that is so maybe we could talk a little bit about, first of all, why when we talk about this embedded payments, is obviously the credit card processing that comes like built into the overall system, both for online booking and also for real time point of sale. But you then began to see clearly, maybe we could walk through the history of where did you begin to see this need that these venue operators, owners had for really what we're here to talk about, which is this new announcement around the micro loans that you have available now within the Roller platform.
Yeah, for sure. Everyone at Roller talks to our operators every day, from our CEO all the way down to our support teams. And having spoken to customers over the last 3 years, it became pretty clear that whilst we were doing a great job of getting money in via our Roller payments products, so whether it's in-person or online checkout or via memberships, like you said, our customers often go through cash flow crunches. A lot of them are seasonal. They might have really great summer periods in the US around June and July, and then they go through a quieter period where, they're wanting to make capital improvements to their park, or they're wanting to, buy up on inventory ahead of like the Black Friday sales and things like that. And cash flow can be a challenge, but also going to their bank or existing banks that are based in the US, getting these smaller loans of sort of, $20, $30, $40, $50,000 can often involve weeks and weeks of paperwork. There's credit checks involved. They're having to submit a ton of documentation. And having spoken to a lot of them, they just get flat out declined, or it was just too much of a burden for them to bear. So in working with Adyen and sort of investigating their capital product and their capital offering within their platform, we realized there was an opportunity to be able to provide these smaller loans provided by Adyen to sort of front run some of those capital investments that they needed to make and help them out during these periods so that they could continue, growing their business, which obviously helps them, helps their guests, provides a better guest experience, but also gives them comfort that, they can pick up a loan from us via Adyen to make those investments, in a timely manner without having to go through too much process and paperwork with a banking partner.
Yeah, absolutely. So how do they go about getting approval for this? And what is it based on? I mean, imagine if it's, if they're not running credit or there's got to be some underwriting involved for issuing these types of loans.
There is, yeah. So the qualifying terms for our customers is if they've been processing on Roller payments for 3 months in the US, and this is globally as well, but talking about US customers specifically, as long as they're processing on Roller payments, and luckily we've had customers processing on Roller payments for, up to 5 years. So we have a really good idea of what their transaction history looks like. We know how much they're processing in any given week, month, or year. So it means that Adyen, who as our banking partner, who's effectively floating them the funds, has a really good idea of, what their business looks like and what sort of loan they might be eligible for. And unlike a traditional loan where you'd go to your bank, you'd provide a bunch of documents and say, hey, I want to apply for a $50,000 loan, and they're asking you for credit checks and business owners. We've already captured all of that information once they've signed up to Roller payments. And then Adyen can also make some risk assessments based on what they're seeing in the transaction volume that's coming through Roller payments. So instead of our customers having to apply for a loan, we surface pre-qualified offers within the platform. So if Brandon owns a trampoline park and Brandon's been processing on Roller payments for the last 2 years, you can log into Venue Manager, which is where you can access, everything you need to do to power your venue. and something will pop up saying, hey, based on your processing volume with Roller Payments, you're eligible for a loan of $50,000. Would you like to proceed? And based on a couple of quick button presses and reviewing a simple set of terms and conditions and effectively a term sheet, you can click that button, request the funds, and they'll be available in your account in the next couple of business days. So we're making these pre-qualified offers based on Adyen's making these pre-qualified offers based on transaction history and the information that's already been provided to us to set up the Roller Payments account. So it really cuts down on all that sort of front-end friction so that operators can feel really comfortable in accepting the loan offer that's been put in front of them, because it's all based on their transaction processing history with Roller.
Yeah, so that's really interesting. And you talk about them getting this term sheet, it's already pre-approved. What do the terms typically look like from both a term, right, term of the loan and payback, and then like overall percentage? I'm sure there's a range based on the amount and based on certain levels of qualification, and also probably certain levels of history based on how much payment history is there inside the platform.
Yeah, all the underwriting, I guess, and all sort of like the risk assessment and stuff is handled by Adyen on their back end, and I'm sure there's hundreds of different signals they're taking into account to assess that loan amount. But in broad strokes, this loan is kind of different to a traditional bank loan where you'd go and apply for a $50,000 loan. There'd be an interest rate or an APY that they need to pay. There's minimum monthly repayments and late fees and all that sort of stuff. Essentially, the way it works with Roller Capital is they're offered an amount, let's call it $50,000. There's a fixed fee applied to that loan. And that can vary depending on all of those risk factors. Typically, it's anywhere between 1 and 12% of the loan amount. That's added to the principal. And then we don't charge interest on that loan. There's no additional fees that the operator needs to pay. It's simply a set repayment rate of their daily takings via Roller Payments. So that can range anywhere between 1 and 15%. So as an operator, you know that you're taking out a loan for $50,000 plus a fixed fee, which is only applied once. And then a percentage of your daily takings are just automatically deducted from your account each and every day, which then effectively pays down the loan over a term. And that term can range anywhere between 6 and 9 months. So it is a short-term loan. It's not over sort of the course of 12 or 24 months, but it's designed to be a quick injection of capital that's easily repaid down through your takings via Roller Payments. And it's a really clear fee structure where the fee is laid out in black and white in the term sheet that you agree to. And then that's just simply tacked onto the principal. You pay it down based on those repayments on a daily basis. And the best part is that, if you have a couple of slower days, that repayment percentage doesn't change, and no one's going to come chasing you for additional repayments or anything like that. It's all based on the shape of your transaction volume throughout the week. So if you have a really great Saturday and you pull in $10,000, that's awesome for you. The loan repayment amount will be 12%. If you have a quieter Sunday and it's only $3,000, it's only 12%. So it's a fixed repayment amount over the life of the loan, and it works based on that transaction volume that we've come to expect based on your processing volume.
Right. So it becomes a little bit more of a predictable repayment to align with cash flow. And again, like, so you have this great big Saturday, and your payment amount for that day might be higher because you had a big Saturday. At least it's a predictable percentage that is going to come out of that particular day. Are these draws that happen? So basically, instead of if I have a $10,000 in credit card processing that happens on a Saturday, I'm assuming that my deposit that comes in is just less that 12%, right? Or is it I get the 10,000 and then 12,000 is then pulled back out? I'm assuming because you're processing it and handling it all together through the same platform, it's just I'm getting the net of that loan repayment amount.
Because we're using Adyen right through the stack. So whether it's for in-person payments or online payments or membership payments, if you take in $10,000 in gross credit card sales on the day, there are payment fees that we charge for processing Roller Payments transactions. They're stripped out and they get sent to us. But then that 12%, in that example for the loan amount that you need to repay, that's all pulled out, and then you're just settled net those funds. So that might come out to $9,500 once we've taken everything out that needs to come. So there's no complicated repayments. You don't need to make any manual payments. We just settle you the amount that's owed to you, less any fees that are coming out. So the benefit of having it all integrated under the one payment processing partner means that operators don't need to sort of do a day-end reconciliation to go, okay, well, I owe Roller 1.5% in fees, and then I owe Adyen 12% for my loan. I've got to make these payments to the bank. You're not doing that on a daily basis. We're simplifying all of that and making it happen in the background and just settling you what you're owed, and that money that's coming into your bank account is yours and yours to keep and deploy where you see fit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's excellent. I mean, we've familiar with Stripe Capital in one of my past companies. We were a software company and we leveraged Stripe for our credit card processing inside of our platform. Obviously, Stripe is not like part of a point of sale. Typically, it's usually embedded into software platforms, that kind of thing. But they had a similar program. And what was really interesting is if we successfully and when we successfully repaid that loan, they were typically presented with another one, and it was maybe slightly better because now you've shown history of successful repayment. And so I'm assuming that I know this is a new program, but that's an intended effect as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, to date, I was sort of looking at the numbers earlier today, and we've issued, I know in the press release, we talked about $1 million USD in loans issued already. That's creeping up towards 2 million, really quickly. And I'm looking at some of those folks who were sort of had early access to the program, and some of them have already repaid somewhere between 40 and 50% of their loan already. And what will happen towards the end of that loan term is they'll be given the offer to essentially take out another loan if that's something that's been beneficial to them. And what we've seen historically and what Adyen have shared with us is that the re-uptake is really high. Like sort of once folks get the idea that they can sort of front run their revenue a bit and pay a small fee to get access to those funds earlier, it means they can invest in their business earlier, take opportunity of like any they can take opportunity, when they need those funds. But yeah, absolutely. Like the repayment, the re-uptake of loans is really high. And something that, Adyen have told us and shared with us with their other platform customers is that, that loan amount does typically increase over time for all those reasons you mentioned. And hopefully, folks are deploying these funds that they receive in their loans to grow their business, add new attractions, make capital investments, which in turn grows their revenue, which means that, they get larger loan amounts and it grows their revenue. And we sort of see this virtuous cycle where, we're helping our customers grow. And as a benefit of that, they're able to bring more revenue in and provide a better guest experience for their guests.
Yeah, that's excellent. Of these, million now pushing $2 million in loans, what do you typically see? I mean, we talked about what you could use this capital for. What have you historically been seeing in, again, just the last month and a half, maybe 2 months of this beta test that you had initially rolled out before you did the formal announcement? What are you seeing them deploying this capital towards? Yeah,
it's really interesting, and it's been really. I mean, when I worked at Square previously, I was supporting a lot of retail and food and beverage operators. So, they were using Square Capital to buy things like new coffee machines or inventory or pay casual staff. We support a wide variety of different leisure and attractions businesses. So whether it's trampoline parks, family entertainment centers, bowling attractions, axe throwing, there's all sorts of businesses that we support. So their spend is slightly different, but having spoken to a few of our early access customers, typically been on capital improvements. So, if they're looking at purchasing new hardware, they want to add on a new point of sale at their check-in to sort of ease that burden when they're checking in a ton of guests on a busy weekend. They're using it to buy a ton of inventory ahead of like a rush period, or they're simply just using it as sort of a cash stopgap. They might have bills due, insurance premiums due. They might have, other lease agreements that they need to fulfill. So basically just pulling that revenue forward and knowing that, they're confident in the fact that, their revenue is going to continue through so that they can just deploy that capital when they need it, rather than sort of having to wait and experiencing that, that nasty cash flow crunch where they're kind of like, hey, like I've got these bills and, things that I need to pay for in order to keep the business operating, but just bringing that revenue forward so that they can make those decisions. But yeah, honestly, it's been a wide variety of things, but like capital improvements and like new equipment, upgrading their attractions, anything that's going to make their park more attractive to their guests.
Yeah, that's excellent. Well, Chris, is there anything else that our audience should know about the Roller Capital platform? Assuming if they want to learn more about, first of all, Roller and how to get Roller, but also the Roller Capital program, they can visit roller.software. That is, the website. But anything else that you want to share?
No, I mean, there's a ton of information on our website and in our help center as well that sort of answers questions around, commonly asked questions around our capital offering. There's a landing page, under the features section on our website where you can see me and a couple of other team members talking about the program. But no, overall, look, we're really stoked to be able to offer it to customers, not just in the US, but across the UK, selected countries in Europe, Australia, and we're adding more countries each and every day. We've got customers, all over the globe who would really benefit from a program like this. But we'll definitely encourage folks to check out our website, learn more about it. And then, obviously, if they join Roller and sign on to Roller Payments, they're going to be able to take advantage of this offer in the region in which they operate, as long as they stay with us and keep processing on Roller Payments.
Yeah, it's excellent. Well, Chris, thanks so much for coming on, talking about Roller Payments. When I saw it, I was very intrigued and very excited. I know this could be a great benefit to all the operators and venue operators out there. So thanks so much for doing this, and we'll see you on the next Guest Gab.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Intercard makes cashless easy with award-winning readers, self-serve kiosks, real-time reporting, and flexible guest payment options. From play cards and credit cards to mobile payments and QR codes. Since introducing the industry's first card system in 1989, Intercard has helped operators reduce cash handling, increase guest spending, and run smarter venues. Intercard is the world leader in cashless technology. If you aren't already part of their global family of customers, they hope you'll become one soon. Visit intercardinc.com to learn more. All right. Well, it was a great Guest Gab with Chris Rich. Coming up next, we've got Open and Shut with Kevin Williams.
Hey, a big hello and welcome to the latest Open and Shut. I find you well, Brandon.
Doing well. Man, looking forward to seeing you tomorrow for some AWE. It's going to be fun.
Yes. If they allow me in, I'm looking forward to seeing you too.
Perfect. All right. So we dive in?
Anyway, let's jump straight into it. So we are inundated yet again with a selection of facilities. Any investment community that would be looking at the location-based entertainment industry and seeing some weird guy in England able to cover over 20 facilities each week, with a couple of exceptions for the last couple of months, let alone years, was kind of say that is an industry that is worthy of some interest. And to be blunt, I have actually been having conversations with certain investment operations that have been making this assumption, though for the life of me, I can't work out why our trade associations aren't as active regarding this kind of situation, though some sources say to me that many of these new facilities opening, and even some of the established chains, are not members of the trade association, so they don't really appear on the radar. And there's many reasons we can go into, maybe in a Open and Shut at some point in time, about why the latest crop of location-based venues do not want to play with the associations. But anyway, moving on, the Tourist of Pain, for all of those that enjoy this, and you can see where the clustering is, and it is very interesting where the clustering is from this lot. Jumping straight in, and there is a theme, and that theme seems to be 10-pin bowling, bowling in general. A lot of these new venues all comprise a string bowling or a boutique bowling capability. And that is very telling. So we jump straight into the UK, and the UK celebrates a new 10-pin. 10-pin is part of a chain of 60 facilities dotted around the UK, and they've just thrown open a new 33,000 square foot facility, an ex-department store turned into an entertainment facility. And that is kind of telling of where we are. The have space will fill is a mentality that we're seeing across a lot of the competitive socializing and boutique bowling venues.
It still just continues to blow my mind to some extent. Not that bowling continues to have the presence that it does in these venues, but that the same mix continues to show up in these venues. Bowling, laser tag, amusement, some social, some karaoke they're throwing in here now. And then, the escape room is always an odd one to throw into an FEC. But it's mind blowing that these groups continue to just bang out the same standard mix that's been done for the last 20 plus years.
It is a formula. I don't like getting into the if it ain't broke, don't fix it mentality, because I do personally believe that there is something rotten in the house of Denmark regarding how some of these operations are going. But from the established chains like 10-Pin and Hollywood Bowl and such like that, they feel that they can continue down this path quite happily and quite merrily, seeing ROI. And again, we don't really get that close transparency to the ROIs. Jumping on to our next ones, and of course another established chain, our friends at Lane 7, with 25 facilities out in the market, and we wake up to the news that they're dropping in a facility into Leeds. We're talking 23,000 square, but again, it's following the cookie cutter kind of approach for this type of approach in the market.
Yeah, same thing. I mean, at least they're beginning to experiment with some social bays, some social entertainment, but it is Lane 7 is slowly, I feel like, dipping their toe into that water, at least under the Lane 7 brand. Obviously, they have some other brands that they're focused a little bit more heavily on that.
Yeah, I'm seeing an internal pivot. Obviously, these guys aren't going to shout this from the rooftops because they have so much competition, but there is definitely a slight pivot or a slight deviation to the super tankers course going on at the moment. And then we have pin stacks. I forgive, please forgive me, guys, at pin stacks. I always keep on mixing you up with pinstripes, but that's just my ADHD. The problem that I have about mixing these two ones up is, a violently successful approach to the boutique bowling sector compared to, sadly, facility that went through pain and anguish, and we still haven't heard the end of that one. But dealing with the positive side, pin stacks, they follow the same kind of model. A larger facility, but is that because we're in America? I think it is. They have more space to play with. Purpose-built facility as well here. Very impressive, their layout, really doubling down on the boutique bowling. Thank you, Brandon.
Yeah, and this is one where I am a little bit confused based on the some of the attraction mix, and maybe just because they have they have to fill the space, but they when they go in and throw in a climbing wall with bowling and some social entertainment, and it's just one of those things where people are not quite ready to go and do this big major climbing situation, alongside laser tag and amusement and everything else. So anyway, I just always wonder what what the designers are thinking when they're putting in those types of active play adventure park style attractions alongside traditional entertainment.
This Virginia site is a purpose-built facility. This isn't going into a previous department store and repopulating it. So they've got no one to blame for the machine mix other than themselves, rather than, as you say, trying to fill dead space. I always get the feeling from where pin stacks and another of this kind of chain of operations are trying to be the main event plus kind of approach. They do have that climbing jungle gym above the amusement machines, but they don't have the laser tag, but they have something equivalent for a more older audience. We're up to 9 facilities here in the chain. They are taking their time in rolling out, though I think we're due to have a spurt of action because of these purpose-built facilities. But again, going for purpose-built means that it takes you longer to open sites, and so your competition can catch up. So there's swings and roundabouts all around here. Jumping from bowling, the other, we're sort of like Sesame Street. What is the letter for the for the program? But definitely bowling was one, and bat simulation is the other. interesting, our friends at BatFast, the company behind the cricket, baseball, and I think they even do a football ball launching projection system, has rolled out a number of facilities in the UK, rolling onto that competitive socializing bandwagon. One of those is a slugger installation. Now, the venue where they've stuck this is a facility that is seasonal. Very well. If you're going to stick an entertainment facility on a rooftop in central London, you're going to be seasonal. Roof East has just launched its 2028 season. I'm not trying to work out in their marketing exactly how they do that, but I've been to this facility in previous guises when they had a season. They open up usually around May, and then they close as soon as the snow starts turfing up in October. The issue with this is that one of the attractions on this rooftop is cocktails. They're the more physical, cornhole and bocce balls and stuff like that. But they've now added a group of what they've defined as pitching platform machines. These are baseball machines, and they've themed this area up under the Slugger name. For our friends at BatFast, this is kind of them dusting themselves off a little bit, I think, from the debacle that they've been through with Sixes, and this is giving them another chance to push forward their particular realistic, but in this case, baseball simulation. I personally feel that this is a higher level of realism that competitive socializing needs, and I wish that they would consider developing a social entertainment variant of their machine rather than just hoping that they can change a little bit of their normal training simulator and chuck it into the market.
Yeah, and this is one of those scenarios where I really wish that Home Run Dugout was providing some better competition to BatFast's technology, just to see where some changes and innovation could happen, and to see which one could ultimately win out. Obviously, Home Run Dugout focuses heavily on their own venues, but they have the ability. If you go to the homerundugout.com and you go down to the bottom, there's a licensing and partnerships section, and you could license their technology, and it's clearly something they're willing to do. They spend an enormous amount of money at IAAPA Expo to promote their technology and their licensing, and yet BatFast continues to outsell them and outpace them, and just puts their stuff in. And I think it's Home Run Dugout just has a better, if we're talking about social competition, competitive socializing, Home Run Dugout is better for that. It's more accessible than a BatFast simulator.
I've had conversations with the guys. They're very kind with their hospitality at IAAPA. I don't know where they're located this year, if they're still outside this year because of the West-North Hall split.
That's true. They could be inside now. Yeah,
they could be inside. And I'll need to check that up afterwards. Please do that, future Kev. But the issue here really is that they need a sales guy and a positioning guy for them to develop what I would call a pop-up installation variant to compete with not just BatFast. There are a couple of other companies, Togo and some others in Asia, that develop this type of system. And it is that simulation application that our friends at BatFast have made their own. And suddenly, surprise, surprise, while I was doing some research into BatFast, I find out about HITS. And HITS is a app-based cricket training facility. And what you do, there's about 14 of these things littered around the UK, usually in, kind of industrial estates. You walk up, you click your app, the doors open, you go in, you put on your batting gear, and you do a couple of rounds. There's an app there that tracks your scoring and your abilities. It is a training system where for people that don't have access to cricket training grounds, and it's also obviously an exercise system. there is very little entertainment here. This is pure sportainment at its very broadest terms. But again, it is an example of where this kind of proficiency of creating a sports simulator wins compared to the more softer sportainment, social entertainment approach that we are talking about.
Absolutely. And this is the perfect use case for BatFast. This is a training, and you're not going to get grandma or the or 7-year-old, boy or whatever here to like, they're coming here to train to hit balls that are coming at them fast. And so this is a perfect, great example of the right use case for a fast pitch batting simulator.
Agree. Moving on, and we jump past a few, you know the rules, hit the pause button if I zip past anything too quickly. We'll touch upon this in Sound Off a little bit more, but our friends at Gender have pivoted their Geico concept to go all in on supporting the cranes. We knew that this was an inevitability, that this was going to actually happen one day, that they would just say, forget it, let's just do a venue that is 100% crane. Well, it isn't totally 100% crane. You can't do that with Geico, but it is a crane oasis. We know that they're thinking about some of their other venues also being pushed more towards a heavy crane usage. And there's some unusual things about this crane facility that I would like to touch upon in a little bit more detail later on.
Yeah, looking forward to talking about this a little bit further in Sound Off.
Moving on, and we have the next of the virtual adventure systems. Again, this one, another one from Fever, another one that is really based on the Titanic. So if it isn't blasting zombies in virtual arenas, you are walking around the Titanic in virtual adventure systems. I suppose they're both zombies in some way or the other. The issues here are that it is dropped into a high-level tourist area within Bristol in the UK. It is a mixture of a mini exhibit and virtual environment, though again I'm looking at the virtual reality experience, and this is not on the same level as the mass audience virtual adventure systems we're seeing, but it is, going back to what we were talking about a few open and shuts and sound offs ago, that it is being dropped in like a gallery exhibition into a space on a short-term lease.
Okay, and so here's where I'm a little bit interested and love to get your thoughts on this, since we're not going to be talking about this on Sound Off. I'm going to flip here to this. So on their site, this is just interesting that they are promoting this particular adventure as a team building adventure, options for bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, and birthday parties. What are your thoughts here?
I've had problems about the Titanic tourist business long before millionaires compacted themselves into sugar cubes going down in mini subs. This is a gravesite for me. It is a disaster that we've learned from. Yes, a large number of rich people perish. Yes, a very successful film was created on it. And since the sinking of the Titanic, the populace has had an affinity to a morbid affinity, in my opinion. And that's my personal opinion. And I don't want to, do the downer on anyone that is fascinated in the historical side. I am fascinated in World War II information and history. So, someone could turn around to me and say, a lot of people died during that process. Why are you enjoying that? Here, this, there are limits for me of how much. Is this a historical experience, an edutainment experience, or is this a virtual reality, free-for-all experience where you can have a bachelorette and have some cocktail drinks while you're wandering around the dead ship? Sorry to
Yeah.
be Debbie Downer on this one, but
Well, no, I mean, in that, to some extent, that's what I'm, wondering. Like, okay, sure, there's school groups is one of their options available, and
education, fantastic.
yeah, so education, all right, sure, I get that, but I just found it fascinating that they actually were promoting this particular experience for birthday parties and team building and bachelorette parties. It just doesn't seem to me to be something that, like, hey, I'm a 13-year-old and I want to go have fun. Let's all go to the Titanic VR experience. Seems odd to me that this is something that they would be promoting. And by the way, also on MetaQuest 3s, so that also will be an issue for them going forward.
I'm getting a lot of this where I see the marketing footage created using MetaQuest 3s, and then when I see the pictures from people who actually went to the experience or the trip advisors, they're wearing Picos. So I think there's been someone somewhere must be sitting on a hell of a lot of Quest 3s that they're trying to get rid of at the moment, that look like they were once on the Titanic. More ice with your drink? Anyway, enough of that flippancy from me. Power Play, they hadn't appeared on my radar, and suddenly I am inundated with Australian openings, and I thank our friends at Interfun for keeping us up to date on the openings of new facilities that my bots don't find for themselves. And I really would point people to our friends at Intergame Interfun if they also want to follow up on new openings and developments in the amusement sector. Power Play is a facility chain of 8 karting sites in Australia. They've just opened a new one in Sydney. I wish I had the numbers on how big it is and a little bit more detail on the amusement and attractions component. But sadly, that Australian, what would you call it, the kangaroo firewall is pretty difficult. And I haven't got a VPN running at this moment to do some delving. But I can tell you that we have a number of Australian openings coming up in the next opens and shuts.
Yeah, and the bit that I'm able to find on them is that they are pretty much primarily karting. They have a game zone that is their arcade, but it looks pretty limited. It's probably not even, it may or may not even be based on card based. It could just be even cash based, but it is a high speed karting facility. Everything they show in their videos is like people giving high fives. Like, definitely, this is for those who are into high speed karting. This is not your your regular, like, I would say, family entertainment karting situation.
Agreed. And moving on to something that we've been waiting to see a lot more happen, no matter what people say about the UK pub trade, there are still successful outliers in there, and what are the pubcos, the large pub corporations that still survive, where the more independents have been hit quite hard after COVID. And they now can even smell the blood in the water regarding competitive socializing, and they are dropping back in to pubs, especially ones that have been redeveloped, what I would call traditional pub games, but some of them given a mix of competitive socializing rubbed a little bit on. And so here we have the Climbs Arms in Wales. They've just gone through a £350,000 redevelopment, and part of that is dropping in some interactive darts. Again, I can't quite work out if they're not AR darts, obviously, but I'm not sure if they're automated scoring, because I can see a chalkboard in the photo. They also put a pool table in there, and there's meant to be some other levels. I doubt if beer pong is in there, but this is an example of the pubco waking up to the point that they need to join the competitive socializing boondoggle, though it's a toe in the water, and it is a freehold being forced to put that toe in the water rather than one of the bigger chains just doubling down, which I'm not throwing away as a statement. I do expect one of the big pubcos, either in the UK, Europe, or North America, to just bite the bullet and go all in adding a component of competitive socializing to their venues.
Yeah, and you look, they didn't necessarily go all in, at least as far as it's considered, from an augmented standpoint and gamified and automated scoring standpoint, but they did move further down that path. And this is, for a £350,000 investment, which is not a small amount of money, but it's also not the same as developing something from the ground up. This is, a sign that it's not too inconceivable that if you are a competitive socializing venue and the bar down the street is looks at their opportunities and their square footage and their space and what should we do to be competitive, that you could end up with a competitor very quickly in a space where you didn't expect to have one.
From what I saw of Mr. Fogg's when we visited their facility in City of London and met with the team, I could quite easily see one of the pubcos going hum and just dropping in. And as you say, one day you're a happy competitive socializing facility with no competition in your area, and then the next day you have that Dave and Buster's moment where you suddenly find out Pubco is going to add a Mr. Fogg's to their business, and you've got problems. And again, this is another factor about why I talk about phase 2 of the competitive socializing sector. When you have oversaturation, and then when you start to have the big boys starting to copy your game, copy your homework, then you're going to have to pivot, and you need to have a path to be able to pivot to. And then really, hey, the restaurant boys are getting into it. Why not? Why not go all the way? I'm not I know of Flavortown. And I am familiar with the downtown Flavortown property concept. We are into the second facility of the downtown Flavortown concept, incorporating an arcade, or what I would call a competitive socializing entertainment component. Chosen amusement machines, 18 lane bowling, 100 amusement pieces in what is claimed to be a restaurant, kind of tells you where they're seeing their money made. This is a Dave and Buster's kind of number of amusement machines being in there. Guy, I'm familiar with his visage and what he's done on certain streaming services. I haven't had any of his burgers yet. And hopefully the food is good and the salt is thrown. But this is a big arcade component on top of his restaurant. And I'd love to know how those other facilities split between how much money they're making off the food and booze and how much money they'd be making off of the entertainment.
Yeah, and when you look at the video that's playing here, for those of you maybe listening, it's really interesting that they are clearly a restaurant first, with but then they do add the bowling to it. So so they've got bowling, but their arcade is right next to in a really odd spot, in the sense that it's right next to the main restaurant. So if you're there for a restaurant experience and you're really just there for the food and not necessarily for the games, then you are definitely going to hear those machines. We know those game floors are not quiet.
What did you say again?
Exactly. If you're there for a conversation and you're sitting right there by the game floor, you're going to have a hard time having that conversation. So when basically the video here shows 80% of it is about the food and about the restaurant, and 20% of this video is about the bowling and the amusement, they're leaning into the restaurant component. I do wonder how much the amusement is going to actually impact the quality of the restaurant experience.
It's the Dave and Buster's situation. Have a good bar and cantina, have a good arcade, put the two together, and it was thought to have been a slam dunk, but it took the two guys behind Dave and Buster's a lot of work to work out the positioning where the food wasn't interrupted by the midway amusement. And I really do get the feeling that Guy added this arcade to the restaurant mix as a afterthought, really. You look at the layout of the machines, you see the selection of the machines, you see the placement of the bowling at their other sites, as well as at the new site, and you kind of wonder who's doing who. Is this a problem that they were trying to address? Did they have too many kids running around and with the families while they were eating, and they needed to give them something? The arcade mix would argue against that. Did they see that they needed a secondary and tertiary spend because people weren't spending enough time and money at the bar and at the restaurant component? Whatever it is, we'll be given a front row seat now, because Fave Amusement, who are the people who put the machines into this facility and have laid out the amusement side, are going to have to give us a little bit more transparency on how well this is working. No operation is an island. We will know within the next couple of months how those other facilities are doing based on food sales compared to amusement sales, no matter how much they try and hide that. Moving on, and we go to the shuts. Shock horror, we have some shuts. Oh, not really shuts, acquisitions to be more accurate. And again, we're talking about another old school facility. I think we've actually talked about the closing of this roller rink facility a few months back, but happy news. Sunrise Rollerland in California has been acquired. Someone had 3.5 million burning a hole in their pocket, and they've taken over the facility. Now, the facility has gone through some updates, and the acquisition is part of a long-term opportunity to grow this as a going concern and possibly expand the brand. But it is always nice to see a facility, especially a veteran facility, opened up in 1973, to then now be taken over by new hands and hopefully skillful hands.
Yeah, that's what I think. That's what I hope for anyway. I mean, this is going to probably need quite a bit of work. I think, interestingly, Sunrise Rollerland, for the name, the strange name, it definitely had a medieval themed feel to it on the inside. And so, hopefully Arcade Monsters or whoever, whatever they end up making this into, leans into that as well.
Yeah, we'll have to keep an eye on it, of course. It's another acquisition, another venue that is a veteran site, another facility that is now going to have an injection, or is in the process of having injection of cash put into it. Hopefully some of that cash will go into them actually having a bloody website of any use. That would be a start. Again, family concern, bowling, you can see the kind of theme. The sports bowling will now be eased back as they drop in a much more boutique bowling approach, better amusement, bish bash bosh. But again, an acquisition, a good story, a new pair of hands taking over a tired brand.
Let's hope they can turn it around.
We do. Again, acquisitions of a space. We had talked about this, I think, previously, the Welch facility, and I think I did at the time suggest that someone would be mad not to come along and acquire it. Well, someone had £4 million burning a hole in their pocket, and they've taken over Dinosaur Park. Part of the Magic Entertainment Partners, which is a group of entertainment entrepreneurs that have been buying up within this particular region, entertainment going concerns, tourist sites and stuff like that. So you can see a mini empire on the build. Again, this site didn't need too much TLC. It was a workable operation. It just was out of the league of the current owners. Now, under a going concern, let's hope that it gets that injection of support that is needed. A weird one here, real weird one. I wake up to the news that two mini golf facilities have closed down, boom, boom. And I'm thinking we've gone from one extreme to the other. I'm not being told about closures to now being told about multiple closures happening in the same area. But in Kansas City, the craft putt chain of 2 facilities has been bouncing along. The first facility opened 3 years ago. And then another facility opened. And then all of a sudden, last month, contractual reasons, landlord reasons, they closed, and they closed hard. Social media closed. Thank you for all your service. Don't let the doors hit you on the way out kind of approach. And that was kind of led me down a rabbit hole of looking into what type of entertainment they were offering, how much of a competitive socializing mini golf environment of this. And what I can say from my research of the 2 facilities that have closed is the word vanilla doesn't do it justice in what they were offering as a competitive socializing environment. And I am now wondering if, okay, you didn't get the people in, you didn't hold your audience, you didn't have any retention. So it literally became a one and done. Your revenue has cratered. Now, are we going to see someone turn up with craft putts 2.0 going into the same space and learning these lessons?
Oof, I don't know. Hopefully not into the same space. It's a lot of square footage for, like you said, a very, very vanilla mini golf experience. No automated scoring, no tech, no gamification, just elevated green beds with a few obstacles in each of the holes. Really, really basic. And a lot of square footage to carry for, especially when you're only charging $10 per person for your mini golf, and you also have other games, basically available for free as well, that people can play. So they can come there, have some food, have some drinks, maybe play mini golf, maybe not, but you have to then really rely on your restaurant's business in order to justify it. It just was unsustainable, and not surprising to see this thing have to close after a short period of time.
A craft hospitality owner thought he would jump into the competitive socializing, skimped on a mini golf approach, didn't quite understand it, made some money off the first site, opened a second site, vampired his business because he'd oversaturated with vanilla, and the rest is history, would be my personal opinion from my lofty London position looking at what's happening in Kansas City. But the plague is moving through Kansas City, and I hope that this outbreak can be held back, because not just our friends with the craft putt, what a name, Sinkers Lounge has also suffered in Kansas City and opened up in 2022. What happened in Kansas City that everybody went competitive socializing mini golf cocktail mad? Well, that didn't last too long, and the fever broke. And suddenly, out of the 3 Sinker lounges that were open a few months ago, they're down 1, and 2 remaining are still going. But again, another what I would call light mini golf social entertainment experience disappears. No gamification, a weird menu, and I would say that about craft putt as well. They didn't have a menu that was compelling. They didn't have an entertainment experience that was compelling. They were a one and done site. They were a party site, one and done. And then you are looking at either rethinking your model or you're in serious problem. And this is the serious problem that we're looking at. Yeah.
Well, and this is maybe in Kansas City, we're seeing one of those resets where Kansas City was super hot with the Chiefs and NFL, and a lot of entertainment and restaurants and everything else flooded the market. And now you're seeing maybe a reset. Sure. And it's those that offer a more vanilla or simplistic approach to their entertainment that are the first ones to go.
And if they're not going to learn that lesson here, This is going to bite many people internationally in the butt if they don't learn from this lesson. This could be the beginning of the migration, the full migration over to phase 2, competitive socializing, or this is just the normal churn in the hospitality sector, which is if you don't offer good hospitality and social entertainment engagement, you're living on borrowed time. Anyway, that is enough from me for this. Hey, I've updated something for a change. We have the Stinger report. I got some Stinger reports out. I've got some entertainment social arenas out. I've been a good boy. Please hit me up on LinkedIn if you have any information you want to pass on, or via our email address if you want to deal direct. Please remember that on Facebook we have the Friends of the Stinger Report group, where everybody gathers and prods and pokes at the latest developments and trends that we post up there. But again, I'd also like to thank those that have been passing on information to us about the developments. I think we were right about the reason why there was a logjam for information about closings and changings, but we can deal with that at a later date in a sound off, I think.
Perfect. All right. Well, Kevin, a great open and shut, and we will see you on the next one.
Have a good one.
If you run a location-based entertainment brand and want to attract more visitors, check out Radius. They use real-time location data and customized marketing strategies to help brands like yours stand out. Radius can boost your foot traffic and build a loyal customer base. Plus, they're offering a complimentary local market analysis to show you exactly how they can help you grow. Curious? Visit radius.co and ask about your free market analysis. That's RAYDIUS.co.
All right. Well, on this week's Sound Off number 125 with Kevin Williams, he's going to answer some of the outstanding questions for the Friends of the Stinger report on Facebook and much, much more. We dive in. It is a robust Sound Off for with Kevin, and that is happening this Tuesday, June 16th, while we are in Augmented World Expo in Long Beach. So we'll definitely have a deep dive debrief on our time at AWE during next week's LBX show. But until then, this is Brandon Wiley signing off. Stay tuned and keep kicking ass.